So welcome to my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. I'm so glad that you are here. I am making today a frittata. And not just any frittata, but I'm calling this my kitchen sink frittata. You know, you've heard about like kitchen sink cookies where you kind of put everything but the kitchen sink in it. Well, this is a frittata that I'm making that I actually kind of pulled out of my hat over the weekend. I had not been to the grocery store, and we had had a really, really busy weekend. And so on Monday morning, all my family was at home. All my babies were home because it's summer, and you know, that's pretty rare these days. And my husband was off work, and I thought, oh my goodness, I want to get up and make something really, really good for everyone. But we had such a big weekend that I hadn't been to the grocery, and I had no food. I mean, I felt like I had no food. But I still wanted to make something for him. So you know what you can always go to is eggs. If you've got eggs, you can make a kitchen sink frittata. So basically what I did is I went through my whole house, my pantry, and kind of looked around a little bit, my refrigerator and looked around a little bit, and I pulled together a delicious, eggy, hearty, proteiny, fresh breakfast for my family, and it turned out to be really, really good. So I thought I would share with y'all how simple that is and delicious, and you could really put just about anything in this frittata. Now what a frittata is, it's basically like a quiche, but it doesn't have a crust on it. It's just the eggs. And it's loaded, of course, with all kinds of good flavors and ingredients and all that. And so what you're going to have, or should probably have anyway, is a good nonstick skillet. That's pretty key for this. Anytime you're cooking eggs, you want to have a good nonstick skillet. And I'm using my Le Creuset nonstick skillet today. It's amazing. It's one of the best I've ever used. And we have them at Unimaze in a couple of sizes. But this is a 10-inch skillet. And so what I've got going first, because it takes the longest, is I have one medium yellow onion and one purple onion. And let me tell you, so, you know, I said that I made this kitchen sink frittata over the weekend, or on Monday, I guess. And I literally grabbed all these random things out of my pantry. So when I went back to the grocery store to buy the products for this shoot, I bought exactly the things that I had that day. So I always have onions sitting in my little bowl right here. And so I had a yellow and a red, and I like the mix of that color. And so that's what I grabbed for this shoot so that y'all will know. And then I looked in my pantry, and I had a can of new potatoes. You know, new potatoes are the ones that already have been skinned and just boiled, and they're already a little bit salty. They're kind of good, but I don't know. I had these for something else. I don't even know what, but I had one can of them, and I decided it would be really good to put that good hearty bite. Oh, I know what this was from. This was from chicken pot pie. Do y'all remember that? I did new potatoes in my chicken pot pie. That's why I had one of these left. So I just did this. So I had the whole ones. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just cutting these into kind of cubed. I know that they make new potatoes that are already diced, and so if you have that or whatever, you could grab that. Or if you have, you know, a baking potato in your house, you could put that in there. If you have hash browns in your freezer, you could throw hash browns in this. Kitchen sink frittata means that you can put just about anything in it, and that's what I've done. Okay, so I've diced or kind of cubed my can of potatoes. Let me check on our onions real quick. And you do want your onions to cook down pretty well, because basically in a frittata, what these vegetables are going to be like right now, or you know, when they go into the oven and cook for a few minutes, is how they're going to come out. They're not going to do much more cooking in the oven. So you really want to get your onions cooked down just the way you want to eat them up here on the stove, because once we put the eggs on them and stick them in the oven, they're not going to cook any more down. So don't short yourself on this particular step on these onions. And I'm just doing this over, I don't know, medium heat or so. I'm gonna do a little bit higher. In a little bit of butter and a little bit of olive oil. The butter just gives it that good kind of color that we like to get. Okay, so I found my can of potatoes, and then I had these left over, y'all. I've used these before here on our roasted red pepper pasta, and this is actually the one. It was about a half a jar of it was already opened, of the roasted red peppers that come in the jar. And you can put as many or few of these in here as you would like. And I'm not even gonna chop them. I'm not gonna pull them out of there or anything. I'm just gonna put them in. See how easy this is? So I've drained them just a little. You don't want the liquid, you just want the vegetables in it. And then I had about a half of a container of leftover deli meat. This is Black Forest ham. You could do turkey or whatever you wanted, roast beef or, you know, whatever you wanted. And I also had some cheese, and that's what we're gonna put together in our kitchen sink frittata. It's so easy. So I'm gonna stir my onions, let them get nice and brown. We're gonna add the rest of this in here in just a minute, and then I'm gonna show you how we put it in the oven. It's easy as can be. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by Westrock Coffee Company.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We are making a kitchen sink frittata, and all a frittata is basically a quiche without a crust, because crust actually adds some, you know, calories and carbs and all that, and some time that, you know, when you're just in a hurry to get a good breakfast on the table or a really nice kind of summery meal. You know, this ditching the crust is a great way to do it. So frittata is so easy. And the reason I'm calling it kitchen sink is because I put everything but the kitchen sink in it. And these are just ingredients that I had around. A little bit of leftover deli meat, a can of new potatoes that I just went ahead and cut into cubes. And then I've sauteed a couple of onions, went ahead and added a little bit of those red peppers that were left over in a jar in my refrigerator. You could add capers. You could add bacon. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at my countertop here. You could add in some garlic. I mean, really, you could add just about anything. You could add just about any cheese as long as it's a pretty good kind of melting cheese. And then, oh goodness, I don't know what all. Mushrooms. Oh, I love mushrooms and eggs. But I will tell you, if you add like asparagus is delicious in this. If you were to add something like squash or tomatoes, those are generally a little bit wet. You know, when you saute those or you roast them in the oven or something, how they're real watery. So this is not something, you know, I would probably steer away from that unless you roasted them entirely first and then put them in. But you don't want watery vegetables in here. You really want there to be mostly eggs. We're making this wonderful custard right here. And that's kind of what you want. Water would kind of ruin it. But like I said, you could completely roast them off so they're dried out and delicious and have that good brown flavor on them. And then add them in. But this particular recipe, it's pretty golden. It's really, really, really good. And again, it is a quick one. So we've got our veggies sauteing on the stove. I went ahead and added my ham to kind of give it a little heat through. And then I'm just gonna drop my eggs in there. All this is kind of a good little, I was gonna say recipe, but of course it's a recipe. It's kind of a good little system, like a good kind of measurement across the board every time. 12 eggs. And a half a cup of milk. That's kind of your golden ticket on fat, you know, the eggs, plus your cream. You could use half and half. You could use fat-free half and half if you wanted. I'm using whole milk. But that's kind of the magic combo, I guess, for getting this egg consistency just right. So the eggs alone could get, you know how eggs do. They can get a little bit overdone and a little bit, I don't know, rubbery, I guess you could say. But by adding this milk to them and whisking it in, really makes them fluffy and so good. And you want to salt this pretty well, your eggs, because, you know, they don't have any flavor. And that's one of the best bites of egg that we love is, you know, the one that has a good salty, peppery bite. Love eggs, salty eggs. Okay, so I'm just giving this a whisk. I'm going to pour in our 1/2 cup of milk. And then make sure that this is nice and combined and frothy. Now, back to our skillet. You know, we're using a non-stick skillet because ultimately, you don't want this to stick on the bottom. You want to be able to either cut it in the skillet and easily slide a piece out, or if you're feeling brave, and I might try it in a little while, you can actually slide an entire frittata out of a pan onto a cutting board and let it rest, kind of set up and cut it into squares or rectangle. What in the world? Cut it into wedges. If you can cut a frittata into rectangles, I'd sure like to see it. So that's kind of the reason that we've started with our nonstick skillet. And so everything is nice and pretty and warmed through. I'm going to give this a good little stir. And then what's very important is to kind of get everything leveled. So now that everything is kind of warmed through, we're going to give it a nice little level off. And I have my heat on about medium-low. So all we're going to do is pour this egg mixture right on top of our ingredients, okay? This is so pretty, watch. And this egg becomes this binder that really holds everything together. And then you can see how it starts to fill in and bubble a little bit around the outsides. Oh my goodness, so pretty. Now the key here is to let that simmer just a little bit and cook until maybe about a minute or so. And just to start to see the edges kind of firm a little bit, kind of look a little bit less liquidy. Then we're just going to stick this in a 375-degree oven in my oven-safe nonstick skillet and let it bake for about 10 to 12 minutes till it looks a little bit like a custard. Fantastic. How easy was that? So good. Okay, when we come back, we're going to make a Westrock coffee latte to go with our frittata. This is Cooking Today.
Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton.
What I love most about the farmers market is the music, the art, the food, the people themselves. That's local, that's Fayetteville.
Local means homegrown. My kids can run around, they can choose what she wants to get and eat.
I like growing and selling directly to the public.
And the market is kind of what community ought to be.
Visit us Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on the square.
The Fayetteville Farmers Market.
100% local.
And loved.
Hi, welcome back. We are finishing up our beautiful kitchen sink frittata, and I have just checked it, and I believe it is ready to come out of the oven. Let me show you what it looks like. It is puffed up just a little bit in the middle. Oh, it's so pretty, and it's going to be just a little tiny bit wettish, and that is absolutely just fine. And we're going to let that sit on the stove. You want it to be kind of like a custard, where it's set around the outsides, but then it still just has a little bit of wiggle right in the middle. And as that cools, and it will kind of set up a little bit, so you don't want to cut it right away, and you don't want to try to slide it out of your pan right away. We're going to give it a few minutes to sit. The nice thing about a frittata is that it is really, really good cold or at room temperature, so you can kind of make it ahead if you need to. It's really, really great for company or kind of to make on a Saturday morning when everyone is waking up at different times. You know, you might get up at 8 and make it, and then your kids might get up, or somebody might sleep in a little bit later. Then you can always just serve it at room temperature. Okay, we are going to make these beautiful Westrock coffee cinnamon hazelnut lattes today. So what we have going, I know you're thinking lattes and cappuccinos are for the coffee shops because you're supposed to have a big fancy machine. Well, you're really not. This is something that you can just do with your blender at home. It's really easy. Let me tell you what we've got. This is 1 cup of 2% milk. That's very important. Skim or 2% is what you want to use here. I've dumped in a little bit of sugar. We're going to glug in a little bit of vanilla. Love vanilla. And we're going to add in a little hazelnut flavoring. You can get this, you know, a syrup. You can get all kinds of flavored syrups at your grocery. And I have chosen hazelnut, and I just love it. So we're going to do about a tablespoon and a half or so. So we're creating our sweet, creamy milk that we are wanting to put in our latte. And all I'm going to do is put this in the microwave for 2 minutes. I didn't warn everybody I was about to step out and go to the microwave. Sorry about that. And then we just have our blender on hold and ready to go. Now what you generally have is you have that big fancy machine and you stick that wand down in there and you froth the milk. I don't own that machine, and you may as well not either. And so we're going to heat the milk first in the microwave, nice and warm, and then we're going to froth it in our blender. It is not going to get as frothy as it probably would if you were wanting to do it at the, getting it at the coffee shop or whatever, but it's awful close. Then what we have here are 2 very strong cups of Westrock coffee. This is the Rwanda blend. It's delicious. I love the East African blend for this as well. And we only have about a half of a cup brewed. Really nice and strong. Okay? Then, just turned around and remembered our frittata is sitting there. It is gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Let me tell you a little bit about these lattes. Now, you may not know the difference in a cafe au lait, a latte, and a cappuccino. It really all comes down to the amount of froth that we're going to put on top of our coffee. A cappuccino has a pretty good foamy, frothy top on it, like a cap. And then a latte has a little bit less of a foam on the top, which is what we're going to do today. And then a cafe au lait actually has almost none. You've seen those. That's what you drink in New Orleans with beignets. They're kind of famous for it down there. It's basically just sweet, warm milk mixed with coffee with very little, if any, froth on the top. So we're going to do something sort of in the middle right now. Okay, so perfect timing. Our milk is warm and sweet. I mean, even just the smell that's coming off of this is pretty fantastic. We have a little bit of vanilla bean that I can see from that vanilla that we used from Unimaze. Oh my word, I think I could probably just drink that sweet milk. Okay, so we're gonna just put this right on top of our blender and put the lid on it, and you're gonna wanna be sure to hold this down nice and firm. And I'm gonna start us low. Woo! Can you even imagine if that had happened? Oh my word. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it up. And we're gonna let this blend until it is really frothy and foamy. You could turn this up even higher. You could not blend this if you wanted to just do a nice warm milk. But I'm gonna give it just a little bit of foam for the just right latte at home. When we come back, we're going to top off our coffees and serve up our frittata. This is cooking today. Hi, welcome back. We are just finishing up a really fun breakfasty, brunchy day here. We are making a kitchen sink frittata. It is beautiful. We have finished it up. It is fantastic. Look at this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful frittata right there. You could add cheese in the mix if you would like to before you pour the eggs on. You could hold the cheese out if you would like, and then just do a good grate on the top if you would rather. I have this leftover gruyere that I'm going to just grate right on top while it's kind of nice and warm. You could drop dollops of goat cheese in here if you would rather. It's really up to you. It's kitchen sink frittata. Then I have a little thyme that I think would be really, really good on here. So I'm gonna just slide some of these little leaves right off. Love thyme with eggs. So pretty and good. And finally, we're gonna let this cool a little bit longer. We have our good, yummy, sweet, frothy cream. And we have our nice hot Westrock coffee. And all we're gonna do is pour about half. Oh, it gets the most beautiful color. It's so milky and pretty. And then right at the end, you can kind of coach that foam. Look how beautiful. Right on top. And then for an extra beautiful, special, delicious, sweet treat that I love, I do a little squirt of whipped cream and a yummy little shake of cinnamon. Oh, look at that. Right on the top. What a yummy breakfast. Isn't this a good one? Kitchen sink frittata and our Westrock coffee at home, cinnamon, vanilla, hazelnutty lattes. Hope you'll try these at home. Love every bite. This is Cooking Today. Oh, those are pretty.
Cooking Today, sponsored by Westrock Coffee Company. Kitchenware is provided by Una Mays. Groceries provided by Harps, Hometown Fresh. Online Elements sponsored by Fayetteville Farmers Market.